At 18, with nothing left to return to, I bought a broken tractor, and for some reason, standing next to it in the cold felt less lonely than walking away. The day I turned 18, everything ended quietly. No celebration, no closure, just a worn backpack, a thin jacket that didn't really help, and a few folded bills pressed into my hand like they were supposed to mean something. "Take care," the caseworker said. Take care. Of what? I stepped outside into the gray afternoon. The kind of cold that doesn't just touch your skin. It settles somewhere deeper. For a moment, I just stood there. Because moving meant choosing a direction, and choosing meant admitting there was no one left to catch me if I got it wrong. If I mess this up, that's it. By evening, the cold had already started to win. My fingers stiff, my stomach empty. I walked without really knowing where I was going, just following streets that looked like they led somewhere warmer. They didn't. Eventually, I ducked into an alley, pressing my back against the wall to block the wind. That's when I saw it. A crumpled flyer skidding across the pavement until it tapped against my shoe. I picked it up. Farm equipment auction. Today only. I stared at it longer than I needed to, not because it made sense, but because it felt like something. An hour later, I was standing at the edge of a muddy lot filled with trucks, loud voices, and people who clearly belonged there. I didn't. Men laughed, argued, slapped metal like they understood it. I stayed at the edge, hands buried in my pockets, trying not to look as out of place as I felt. Then I saw it. A tractor. Old, rusted, half dead. It looked abandoned, even in the middle of a crowd. Something in my chest tightened. "That's me," I thought before I could stop myself. "Kid, you lost?" The voice cut through my thoughts. A tall man stepped closer, heavy coat, sharp eyes, the kind of smile that didn't feel friendly. "You thinking about buying that thing?" he asked, nodding toward the tractor. "That scrap." A few people nearby chuckled. I looked down at the ground. They're right. "This is stupid." I turned to leave. One step, then I stopped. Because leaving meant going back to the cold, to nothing, to drifting again. The wind hit my face hard, like an answer. I turned back. My heart pounded louder than the voices around me as I raised my hand slightly. 90. For a second, silence, then laughter. But this time, it didn't land the same way. Because for the first time that day, I had chosen something. By the time the tractor was dropped off at the edge of an empty field, the sun was already sinking. "You sure about this?" the driver asked. I nodded. I didn't trust my voice. When the truck disappeared, it left behind something heavier than silence. Just open land, cold air, and a machine that didn't work. That night, I built what I could, a tarp tied awkwardly between metal and wood. Something that barely counted as shelter. The cold found its way in anyway. It always does. Curled on the frozen ground, shaking, I stared into the dark. This was a mistake. The thought came quietly. Not dramatic, not loud, just certain. The next morning, everything hurt. My body, my hands, even my thoughts felt slower. I could leave. No one would stop me. No one would even notice. But I didn't. Instead, I started walking. Every day, the same path. Past places that felt like they belonged to other people. Warm lights, conversations, lives that didn't include me. Until I reached the library. It was quiet there. Still, safe in a way I couldn't explain. I pulled books I barely understood. Engines, machinery, repair manuals. The words didn't come easy. But I stayed, because leaving meant going back to that feeling of having nowhere to stand. Back at the field, reality waited. The tractor wasn't just broken, it was done. A cracked gear deep inside made the whole thing useless. I stared at it for a long time. Of course. Of course it's worse than I thought. Still, I kept going, searching through scrap piles, looking for pieces no one wanted. Sometimes I found something. Most days, I didn't. Once, someone shouted at me like I didn't belong there. I ran. That night, I didn't eat. Days blurred. Cold mornings, long walks, quiet failures. My hands started shaking even when I wasn't cold. Then one night, something broke. I tried forcing a piece into place. It slipped, clanged loudly. Damn it! The sound echoed into nothing. I kicked the tractor hard. I can't do this! My voice didn't sound like my own. This is pointless. For a moment, everything felt clear. You're going to fail, you're going to freeze, and no one will even know you were here. I sat there in the snow, breathing hard. Then slowly, I stood up. Forget it, I whispered, and turned to walk away. My hand brushed against the seat as I passed. I stopped. Something felt different. Not warm exactly, just not as cold as everything else. I touched it again, frowned. It didn't make sense. Nothing out here should feel like that. I stood there for a long moment, then let out a slow breath. One more time. Not confident, not strong, just not ready to leave yet. That night, a storm came, wind tearing through the trees, snow cutting sideways, but I stayed, taking things apart, putting them back together, trying again and again. My body wanted to stop, but something else didn't. Then, a sound, small, weak, but real. I froze, tried again. The engine coughed, then roared to life. The sound filled the empty space around me. For the first time, the silence broke. Heat spread through the machine, through my hands, through something deeper. I stepped back, staring. Then I laughed, not because the tractor worked, but because I didn't leave. Because for once, I stayed long enough to see something change. Work didn't come instantly, but it came. Small at first. A driveway, a path, a chance. People didn't trust the tractor. It looked like it could fall apart any second, but it didn't, because I didn't. Every night, I learned more, adjusted, fixed, understood. Slowly, people stopped seeing what I didn't have need to, and started seeing what I could do. By spring, I had a small room, nothing special, but it was warm, and somehow, that felt new. One afternoon, a truck pulled up. Clean, expensive, out of place. The man stepped out. I recognized him immediately, the same man who had laughed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "I hear you fix things now," he said. I nodded slightly. "My equipment's down," he continued. "No one can fix it." Silence. This was the moment. The easy answer would have been no. To give back what I once received. To prove something. Instead, I just asked, "What's wrong with it?" He blinked. "Transmission." I nodded. "Bring it in." That was it. No speech, no revenge, because somewhere along the way, I stopped needing that. "I'm not doing it for you," I added quietly. "I'm doing it because it needs to work." For the first time, he had nothing to say. That old tractor never really stopped being broken. It rattled, it struggled, it needed constant care, but maybe that's why I never left it. Because it wasn't the machine that changed my life. It was the moment I realized, sometimes the only place we feel like we belong is the thing we almost gave up on.